Hi, welcome to my channel Brighter Days, where I make eclectic DIY projects. Today I'm going to show you how to make this little journal
just out of this spiral bound notebook.
It has a hard cover, and I used a modified kind of Coptic binding for the pages. Don't forget to check out my channel and subscribe for more random awesomeness. Here's a list of materials you'll need for this project.
First things first, I need to get these pages out of here. Luckily they've got this little perforation, so I'm going to do that. I'm not going to take all of them out. I'm just going to take out as many as I want to use. Now I want to cut these in half. Let me just measure to see how big things are going to be.
It's 10.5 inches long, so I'm going to mark it in half at 5.25. I do one side and then I do the other side. Then I can connect the two dots and draw a nice perfect line between them. I'll cut right on my line on this first one for now, and now I can actually use this piece as a guide for my next pieces, so I don't have to measure every single one. I just trace along that edge, and I do that for all of my sheets of paper. Then I cut them all on the line. I make sure to cut away from my body and keep my scissors nice and straight.
Now we're going to fold each of them in half. I'll do my first one and fold it. And then when I crease it, I'm going to use that thumbnail to make sure I give it a really, really good crease. You'll fold each of your pages that way. But first, now that I know how big my pages are going to be, I can actually make my cover, and I kind of want to get going on that first because it's going to take kind of a while to dry. So now what I need is this hard piece of card here. Now for the cover, you actually want it to be slightly larger than your pages, only slightly, like 1/8 of an inch, but only on the three sides where the pages turn. So along the spine, you want it to be flush. And I'm gonna draw that 1/8 of an inch on the other side and make myself a really nice mark. And again here, and again here. Okay, but then on this side, I'm gonna make it nice and flush, nice straight line. I can take it away now and use my ruler to make really nice straight lines for myself. Okay, making really sure to not leave any little jagged edges on this one.
I'm using the first cover as a stencil to make my second cover so that they're exactly the same.
Now I've got my two book covers. So I want to give myself on each side about 1 inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch all the way around, and the space between actually really depends on how many pieces of paper I have. So I'm gonna just kind of look at this since I haven't folded them yet. I'm gonna look at this and double it since I know that that's gonna be about, so it's gonna be, yeah, like about there, plus just like maybe a tiniest little extra smidgen. That's about how big I want it. So now I'll mark. Now that I've got this, I'm actually ready to glue. I use this piece of parchment paper. This is PVA glue. You can probably use Elmer's glue, it's probably fine, but this is the real stuff to use. And then you use your brush and cover up the entire thing. Right now, I'm gonna position it, noting my corners, trying to keep it as even as I can. Okay, and I'm just gonna take the palm of my hand and really make sure every part of it is stuck. I'll do the same thing over here. Put it along the edge, and then that will help you make sure that these two are in line. Grabbing my scissors, and I'm gonna leave not all the way up to the corner, but almost to the corner. I'm gonna go at a 45-degree angle, and I'm gonna snip the ends, leaving just a little bit. That little bit right there. I'll start on this edge and I'll give it just a line of glue. And I'm gonna cover that whole strip. And then I'm folding it over. Making sure that it's touching the edge of my cardboard and then coming out with my thumbs like this. Don't forget that middle section. Oh, my cat's yelling at me. Lily, books are not for you. You don't know how to read. All right, now I'm gonna do the opposite side. Now it's kind of a tricky part. You wanna get into this corner and kind of push it in. kind of like that, and make sure it's kind of stuck in there with your thumbnail. I'm gonna do that for each of them before I fold on the sides. It's a process you want to do kind of quickly, because you don't want to use a ton of glue, but you also then don't want the glue to dry. Make sure those corners get stuck down really good. I'm just going back in with my thumb to make sure that they're really, really stuck down. Now you can take a fresh piece of parchment paper, lay it over, and put your heavy books on top. Now, you can leave it for, I don't know, about 3 hours. Don't forget to clean your glue brush right now. Now that that's all dry, I begin working on my text block. I need to fold all of these pieces of paper in half just so they're exact. So I tape my ruler down to the table and I butt the ends up onto the side of the ruler to make sure that they're lined up perfectly. Now that I've got my papers all folded up, I'm going to put them into little groups. We call them signatures. Now I'm going to use 5 per signature, but usually with slightly thicker paper you would want to use less, like 3 or 4. You just slip them inside each other. Once you do them all, tap them on the table fold side down so that all little pockets of air get out. Now, put them all together and put your ruler up against them. You want to be about 3/4 of an inch from the edge. Push them down, hold your ruler up, and mark with your pencil on all of the edges, the folded edges of your text block.
Do this in the middle and 3/4 of an inch from the other side.
I'm using this nice big needle. It's actually going to make it a lot easier on me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this group. I'm going to poke a hole right on that mark that I made. Just poke it all the way through. And making sure I know that this side came this way, I'm going to flip it here so that I will flip all of mine that way, so they're going to stay lined up.
Poke all of the holes in all of the signatures.
Now that I've done that, it's going to be time to sew. To know how much string I need, I kind of have to see how far it is between each of the 2 holes at the ends, 4 times the length of the space between these 2 holes. And then I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra for like tying knot. Hardest part of the whole thing, I'll thread my needle. Okay, to tie a knot, I loop it around 2 fingers like that, and then twist it on itself like that and pull it. This thread is pretty flimsy and it could get knotted up on itself, but I hold my needle and thread kind of at the end there, and I take my thumb and I put it on the candle with the needle and I just pull. And I do that a bunch of times so that the thread gets all nice and coated with wax. All right, now I'm ready to sew. So the pattern is I'm going to be going like the number 8. I'm going to be going in, out, in, and then out again through the middle hole, and then I'll tie a knot at the end. And so I'm going to be going through all of them, so this could get kind of tricky. So that's why I have them in groups, so we can just do them one group at a time. So I've already made the hole, so I'll go in through my hole, okay, through the whole thing, and I'll take it all the way to the end where my little knot is right there. Now I'll do my next one. Now I'm going to go out through the middle hole. So I'll go one at a time. Again, this time I can kind of do a barbecue skewer thing where I just kind of pick this up and poke it through. Now, pull it through so that it's taut. If I pull really hard though, it's going to rip the paper. So just until it's taut and then you're good. All right. Now we're going to go in through this other side. Pull it taut like that. Now I'm going to have to go through this same middle hole, and now I can't really ungroup them, but hopefully in theory I should be able to kind of get through if I wiggle enough. Oh, see, there, I did it. I'll push through. I'll just snip the ends. I got really impatient. I really want to finish it. So I lifted this up. It's drying nice and flat, and that's really good. But you know what I noticed? It's still cold to the touch. That means the glue is still wet. We really want to let this dry under the weight. so that it dries really, really flat. Okay, I'm gonna go do something else for a while.
Let's watch my friend's Tesla coil he made out of garbage. Yeah, science!
Now I'm gonna remove my books, and here it is. This would be a really great stage to put art on the cover. Maybe you wanna silk screen it on there, but you could also just draw right onto it. So my text block is gonna fit right into here, right? And I measured so that there would be a little bit of overlap all around the edge. And of course, the edge of my text block, the fold, is gonna go right up here, right against this edge. And if I fold it over, I will see that it fits actually quite nicely. And I've got this little gap right in here, and that's actually a really good thing. I'm gonna take this last single page here, and I need to completely cover it with glue and then put it on. So to do that, I'm gonna insert a piece of parchment paper all the way in there. I'm going to cover it with glue. I wanna be very careful here. I'm going to actually take this piece of parchment paper out and put a fresh one in there because I don't want all of that glue on there. I take this page, turn it, I align it exactly where I want it to go. Oh, it looks a little crooked here. I'm gonna try and even it out as much as I can. Okay, and so now I'm gonna take my thumb and flatten it down the very best that I can, so there's no little bubbles, and I'll put this piece right back in here. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. Last page. Take this very carefully, take out the gluey one, put in the clean one. Now all I'm gonna do is close my book. Let's see how it turned out.
It is completely functional as a little tiny journal. The only regret I have, though, is that this paper was so thin, it didn't hold up to the glue very well when gluing it in there. This is another one that I made, and what I did with this is I put in a thick piece of end paper. Now, this plaid and owl book, I used a slightly different binding method, but for yours, all you would do is put a piece of thick paper around your whole text block and then sew it and glue it just how I showed you.
If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section and I'll try and get to them. Bye for now, have fun!